Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Prabhupada Disciples Association and the Hare Krishna Society, which is moving forward in its expansion of different branches worldwide. And we're currently working on setting up 11 or 12 different branches of this organization for the specific purpose of protecting Prabhupada's legacy in the form of his books, his lectures, his personal instructions, his letters, his morning walks, all of the different vehicles of communication that were captured during his presence here with us in the early years of ISKCON, of which many of us were participants, interestingly enough. And that experience for all of us is unique in our history, and it is also an opportunity for us as God brothers to share this information with all the new people that are interested in self-realization and God consciousness. And this is only possible by association with a bona fide. We've been studying Balaram constantly in these books, that the information given by Prabhupada, and he's always referring to bona fide. It's every week, every purport, everything is bona fide, has to be bona fide. And so there's a system, how to be bona fide, whether you're a bona fide guru or a bona fide disciple. And so we want to explain to others what this bona fide process is, not an illicit process, which is manifested, after Prabhupada's departure from the physical plane that we're in. Although he left all kinds of information for us to understand the transcendental nature of this process, which is based on sound vibration. The Vani incarnation is a very, very important principle that has been misunderstood by tens of thousands of people. And thousands of people have been, unfortunately, damaged by bogus preaching and philosophy. I'm going to read something quickly before we move into our reading of the diaries, which are very enlightening. I posted this on Facebook, Balaram and Dharma Bhavana. Today, I'm always posting, as you Prabhus know, I get over 40,000 views a month of my posts. A lot of them might be the same people, but it's penetrating slowly into the internet atmosphere of people that are interested in spiritual life and specifically Krishna consciousness. And not only that, Prabhus, there are other members of our organization that are also posting, so we may be getting 50 or 60,000 views a month. Now, 60,000 views a month times 12 is 720,000 views a year right now. That's not very many relative to the vast ocean of people that are on the internet, but it's the beginning, and we're looking for members to take up this war with us for supporting the truth. And we want to proliferate it through all of our branches that we're going to be working with our different God brothers to set up and operate. So this plan is moving along. Here I wrote this: repetition of a good thing is a good thing. The message is plain and simple. Stay in your rightful position. Do not jump like a monkey. Prabhupada. So anyway, this Guru Mara Vidya should be avoided. That is the instruction in this verse we can get, and that is the Vedic way. It is not that Draupadi is speaking, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also speaking. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very strict on this point. As soon as Vallabhacharya spoke that I have written a better comment than Sridhar Swami, immediately Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became offended. He said, oh, you have become more than Sridhar Swami? You don't care for Swami? So he remarked immediately, Swami ye janana mani veshyara bitari. That is the system. You cannot overrule Acharya. You become more learned than the Acharya? That is not possible. Jayadvaita. I just inserted that, sorry. Acharya should be always worshipped. Even if by A, B, C, D you have become more learned than the Acharya, that is not possible. But if you foolishly think like that, still, you should not exhibit your foolishness. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction by his life example. He has taught us that the more we remain ignorant, foolish, before the Acharya or before the Guru, that is how we advance more. Real success is how one is faithful to his Guru. That is real success. Yasha Deve Parar Bhaktir. Yata Devi Tata Goro. It is not by education, not by PhD or grammatical knowledge you can learn anything. No, it is by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is Prabhupada speaking. Please don't shoot the messenger. And that comes down to the grace of Guru. That grace, oh, Krishna, excuse me. These Facebook posts, sometimes they just, if you touch the phone wrong, it just goes off. The grace comes down to the grace of Guru. That grace does not come directly. We should not be neglecting this point. Things become revealed by devotion, not by so-called education. So anyway, this Guru Mara Vidya should be avoided. That is the instruction in this verse, and we can get. And that is the Vedic way. Don't jump over. This has been going on now since Prabhupada's departure by so many sort of neophyte people. I'm using the term neophyte because if you think about it, Balaram, you join a movement, you spend some time, say 10 years in it. Like, for example, with Rupanuga. He joins the movement in 1965. All of a sudden, 1975, he's a pure devotee? Gee. Or now you're the supreme authority on the matters of spiritual life. All of a sudden, you come from a particular background. All of a sudden, you emerge into this great transcendental being. Doesn't make sense. And we know by all of our own experiences how things have been in our own lives, evolving along, following the process and trying to develop our own personal Krishna conscious discipline, following the principles and chanting. So enough of that. We're going to be doing some special programs on these subjects because a lot of people in our group are very interested in the discussions like these, and we do want to share them with you as we move forward and while we still have time, because time is our friend, but in some ways it's our enemy. And Vinkapata, let's move forward to the diaries. Let's not move this nectar out of the program here. So we're going to go to September 7th. So remember, Prabhupada's went through the first, episode of bad health. And so he's recovering. Today, Baraha Dwadashi observed the best atmospheric condition on the Mediterranean Sea. All along, we've seen the Algerian coast. Wednesday, the 8th, today at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and near about Gibraltar, we had a first experience of fog impediment. It was all dark around the ship, and she stopped moving completely. She was whistling now, and then to protect herself from other unseen ships being collided with, we started about 11 again. 8/9/65 at about 2:30 p.m. we passed over Gibraltar port, ending at Tirita Lighthouse. The other side is Spanish Morocco. There is regular ferry steamer service. The gap is wide, about 7 miles across. We are in the Atlantic. Till 4, this is Thursday, September 9th. Till 4 o'clock afternoon, we've crossed over the Atlantic for 24 hours. Wow. The whole day was clear and almost smooth. I'm taking my food regularly and got some strength to struggle. There is slight lurching of the ship, and I'm feeling slight headache also, but I am struggling, and the nectarian life is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, the source of all my vitality. Friday the 10th. Today the ship is plying very smoothly. I feel better today. But I'm feeling separation of Sri Vrindavan and my lords Sri Govinda, Gopinath, Radha Damodar. The only solace, here we should listen to this, is Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, in which I'm tasting the nectarine of Lord Chaitanya's Leela. I have left Bharata Bhumi just to execute the order of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in pursuance of Lord Chaitanya's order. I have no qualification, but I've taken up the risk just to carry out the order of His Divine Grace. I depend fully on their mercy so far from Vrindavan. Now, Saturday, September 11th, today the ship ran on very smoothly. The sky was clear and there was sunshine all day. At about 7:30 in the morning, we passed the Azores Group Islands under the Portugal Republic. There was again rehearsal for lifeboat saving at 4:30 p.m. There was rehearsal of the fire brigaders also. At night, there was a profuse moonlight on the ocean and considerable lurching also, but did not affect me very much as it used to do in the Arabian Sea. The Atlantic Ocean is more kind to me than all other seas so far we have crossed over. It is all Lord Krishna's grace. And finally, for today's reading, Sunday, September 12th. So it's only going to be 7 more days. Prabhupada's going to arrive in New York City. Wow. SR Day. Today there's a great deal of lurching, although the sky is clear. Mrs. Pandya, although a little lady, but very intelligent and learned. Also, she has foretold about my future. Thanks to her prediction, all blessings of Lord Krishna for her. The crisis which I suppose to have crossed is also mentioned by her. If I had crossed the crisis, then that is goodwill of Lord Krishna, my friend and philosopher. In the evening, there was too much lurching, and I felt a bit seasickness. I could not take my food properly. Little sweets were accepted and some relish. The lurching continued till midnight. And we'll continue reading this diary of Prabhupada's traveling over the ocean to America again on Saturday morning at our Bhagavad Gita reading and discussion. But now we'll move forward with the chanting of the bhajan, Jaya Radha Madhava, sang by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. And after that, we'll have the reading and discussion with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu from Twain Hart, California. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Yasodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Pushpat Paravamsa Paribrajagacārya Sattara Sadasyamal Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi ki Jai Rāmācārya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivāsadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki Jai Shri Shri Rādhā Krishna Gau Gopinath Sam Kundi Radha Kundi Girigavardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय स्वामी भक्तविंद की जय ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द असमर ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द असमर ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द असमर थैंक यू वेरी मच
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskrityam Narayanam namaskrityam Naram cheva narottamam Naram cheva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat Tato Jayam Mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam or Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, after offering respectful obeisances, 1 to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2 to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4 to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. This class or reading is being conducted from the original, non-edited, non-adulterated 1974-1975 version of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. As with every reading, we will read a few verses from chapter 1, from text number 18 to 22, describing the benefit and potency of hearing this great literature, Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Caitanya and Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Granted, text number 19. 18 Thakur Gaudiya ke karye cheno yatmasat 18 era charana vandan tire morenat. These 3 deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Text number 20. Grantera-rambikari mangala charana Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Text number 21. Tinera smaraneyai vigna vinashana, anayaseyai nijavanchita purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Simbangala-charanai trivida prakar, vastu nirdesha shirvada namaskaram. The invocation involved three processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. So today we'll be reading from Venkat, which chapter, which verse?
Chapter 4, verse 95.
Very nice. All synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Text 95. Jagat Mohana Krishna Tanhara Mohini, Ataeva Samastera Paratakurani. Jagat Mohana, enchanting the universe. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Tanhara, of him. Mohini, the enchantress. Ataeva, therefore. Samastera, of all. Para, foremost. Takurani, goddess. Translation. Lord Krishna enchants the world, but Sri Radha enchants even him. Therefore, she is the supreme goddess of all. Text 96. Radha Purna Shakti Krishna Purna Shaktiman, Dve Vastu Bedanai Shashta Paraman, Radha Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī. Purna Shakti, the complete energy. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Purna Shaktiman, the complete possessor of energy. Dvi, two. Vastu, things. Bheda, difference. Nai, there is not. Shastra Paraman, the evidence of revealed scripture. Translation. Sri Radha is the full power, and Lord Krishna is the possessor of full power. The two are not different, as evidenced by the revealed scriptures. Text 97. Mrigamada taraganda yoechi avicheda, agni jvalate yoechi kabunahi beda. Mrigamada, musk. Tara, of that. Gandha, fragrance. Yoeche, just add. Avicheda, inseparable. Agni, the fire. Jvalate, temperature. Yaeche, just as. Kabu, any. Nahi, there is not. Bheda, difference. Translation. They are indeed the same, just as musk and its scent are inseparable, or as fire and its heat are non-different. Text 98. Radha Krishna eche sadaika swarup, lila rasa svadite dare dui rupa. Radha Krishna, Radha and Krishna. Eche, in this way. Sada, always. Ekai, one. Swarupa, nature. Lila rasa, the mellows of a pastime. Asvadite, to taste. Dare, manifest. Dui rupa, two forms. Thus Radha and Lord Krishna are one, yet they have taken two forms to enjoy the mellows of pastimes. Text 99-100. Prema bhakti shakoiti apani avatari, Radha baba kanti dui angikara kori, Sri Krishna Caitanya rupe koilo avatar, Eta panchamashlokira arta parachar, Prema Bhakti, devotional service and love of Godhead. Shikaite, to teach. Apane, himself. Avatari, descending. Radha Bhava, the mood of Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī. Kanti and luster, Dui, two. Angikar-kari, accepting. Sri Krishna Caitanya, of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Rupe, in the form. Kaila, made. Avatara, incarnation. This. Ta, certainly. Panchama, fifth. Shlokera, of the verse. Artha, meaning. Parachara, proclamation. Translation: to promulgate prema bhakti, devotional service and love of Godhead, Krishna appeared as Sri Krishna Chaitanya with the mood and complexion of Sri Radha. Dasa explained the meaning of the fifth verse. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakayam Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaham Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatyadeshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyayam Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prasantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaham Bhagavad Vandanam Kadhyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshataham Adadanastrinam Danter Idam Yachi Punah Punah Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatosmyaham Sadadasu Asmi Sarvata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Prishtashat Karumishvam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We see in this great literature compiled by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that he is describing in considerable detail the position of Radha and Krishna. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya. There's a famous saying by our great acharyas that the personality of Radha Krishna is non-different than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The first 14 verses of the chapter 1 of Caitanya-caritāmṛta were compiled by Swarup Damodar Goswami in his Kadacha, his notes, his Sanskrit notes. Prabhupada mentions in one place that unfortunately at this current time, this Kadacha or this notebook is not available. But these very important verses describing the position of Gaura-Nitai, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the position of the Acharyas, Lord Nityananda, Lord Advaita, the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is very, very scientifically and systematically described. It is not difficult to understand. Simply, it has to be understood in the proper way. There is a proper way and an improper way. We see in the Mahabharata, Srila Prabhupada 7 times would quote, Achintaha kaluye bhava natam starkana yojayat. The subject matters which are inconceivable for the human mind cannot be understood simply by logic and argument. In another place, it is described that the essence of religion, dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. Guhayam means it is a secret, it is hidden. Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. That if it is a secret, how do we understand it? And the next part of the verse explains, Mahajano yena gatasa pantaha, by following in the footsteps of the great Mahajan. In our Gaudiya Sampradaya, we have obviously Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the 6 Goswamis, the associates of Lord Chaitanya, so many great personalities such as Vrindavan Das Thakur, who compiled the Chaitanya Bhagavata. There is other literatures describing the activities of Lord Chaitanya besides the Caitanya-caritāmṛta and the Chaitanya Bhagavata, which have also been compiled, describing the unique position of Sri Chaitanya. But what is especially significant about the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, it is not only a description of the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but it is a description of the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Caitanya-caritāmṛta is approximately 15,000 verses, and there are so many detailed descriptions of the teachings, instructions, and philosophy of Lord Chaitanya. Sometimes person with poor fund of knowledge will criticize Lord Chaitanya, saying, well, he never wrote a commentary on the Bhagavatam, he never wrote a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, he only wrote 8 verses, the Shikshastakam. But those who are in knowledge of the secrets of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, we know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly instructed Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami at Varanasi on the banks of the Ganges, continuously every day for so many hours every day. So they got direct instruction of the science of bhakti, everything is described. That's why we have the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is an elaborate book describing all the science of bhakti, with all the different duties of the various Vaishnavas, how to worship the deity, how to offer bhoga, so many descriptions, very detailed descriptions, with all kinds of references from so many Vedic literatures. We have the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which describes the perfect description of the science of bhakti. Sometimes scholars or pseudo-scholars will criticize that Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, did not present bhakti in a systematic way. Well, he did. His lectures are like a running discourse explaining the science of bhakti. His books are very detailed description, but specifically Prabhupada gave the translation of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion. That is the topmost book of the science of bhakti in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Very systematic explanation, scientific explanation of the whole process, how to reach bhakti, how to reach perfect stage of love of Godhead. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has also been commented upon by a few other acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and a few others. And it gives a perfect description of how to understand the process of development of love of Godhead. Now, if somebody is going to say that Bhaktivedanta Swami did not present things in a systematic way, that means that they're not very familiar with the writings of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. But that is besides the point. Anybody can understand Prabhupada's teachings. It's not difficult. It's not very complicated. Simply one has to develop the appetite for oral reception, submissive oral reception. Every Sunday, we read a few verses because before we start discussing the Srimad Bhagavatam. These few verses are from the first canto, second chapter, explaining in the words of Sutta Goswami how to develop this bhakti. And it's very important how it is described. It is not different than the presentation of Rupa Goswami. It is not that one Acharya has contradicted another Acharya. No, it is given very nicely according to the time, the place, and the circumstance. Srila Prabhupada presented the essence of all the voluminous Vedic literatures, various commentaries and purports. He has given the essence of all of that and practically introduced the process of how to develop this love of Godhead, how to engage in bhakti in any place, at any time, under any circumstance. Prabhupada was very practical. In 1977, there was a discussion among some devotees, and Prabhupada interrupted the discussion at one point, and he says, I am the practical man here. In other words, Srila Prabhupada was very practical the way he introduced things. When we studied the diaries of Srila Prabhupada in 1965, 1966, we see that gradually, step by step, he was constantly preaching. Every person that he met, he was preaching, trying to engage people, trying to distribute his books. Gradually, he initiated some disciples, trained them up to preach. He was constantly preaching. And he wanted the disciples, all of his followers and disciples, to take up this mission, this preaching mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We see in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita introduction, Prabhupada praises, he quotes that verse, Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. I just want to read the exact translation. This is a very important verse praising the exalted position of Srila Rupa Goswami, the foremost disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It says, when will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? There is an interesting story how early on one devotee went to Srila Prabhupada and told Srila Prabhupada, oh Prabhupada, please give me your mercy. And Prabhupada replied, no, you give me your mercy. I'm working hard, Prabhupada explained, 24 hours a day, trying to present these literatures, trying to explain everything. You help me preach this message, preach this mission. So it's very nice. We are assembled. We read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Caitanya-caritāmṛta. We do our chanting in our situation, personal situation. But we should all be anxious, just like it describes in that prayer. We are anxious for the mercy of Srila Rupa Goswami. We should be anxious to get the mercy of the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. So the next question may be, well, how do we do that? Well, Prabhupada has described that nicely. Try to distribute the teachings, distribute his books, preach, give the same chance to hear about Krishna that we've received from him. We see in the Bhagavatam, in the first canto, second chapter, it is described, Śrīmatī svakata Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha ridyantastoya badrani vidhunoti suritsatam. It stresses the importance of hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam. Nashta prayeshu babadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. These are very, very important verses. In the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains in the first 6 chapters, he quotes 5 or 6 of these verses from that chapter, same chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, to describe the whole process of bhakti. The whole process begins by hearing, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, hearing from the bona fide Acharya. One should not hear from nonsense deviated persons who present themselves as big experts on what Prabhupada explained, what Prabhupada preached, what Prabhupada really meant. Oh, Prabhupada said a lot of things. Between 1966 and 1977, Prabhupada was a preaching machine. So many lectures, so many conversations, so many instructions. If one approaches the teachings of Prabhupada without personal motivation, it is not complicated to understand. It only becomes complicated to understand when one has this personal motivation disease, the PAD disease, profit, adoration, and distinction disease. Then it becomes complicated. Then we see so many interpretations, so many misunderstandings, so many false ideas are introduced, so many speculations, so many assumptions. And once this mind, the speculative mind, concocts various meanings that were never intended. We have seen it. We still see it every day. We still see it every day. One has to be on guard against the speculative idea of thinking that he knows better, that he has really understood what Prabhupada really meant, what Prabhupada really intended. Yes, somebody may have been with Prabhupada, that's nice and good. Prabhupada was with a lot of people. He gave his mercy, his association to a lot of people. But we have to develop the attitude, this bogus, one has to give up this bogus idea of thinking that he knows better than everybody else what Prabhupada really meant. We see on Facebook nowadays so many exchanges with different persons, specifically persons who were very close to Prabhupada, high officers in his mission, people who at one time rendered very nice service. Very credit should be given where it is due. Persons and devotees who gave a lot of service to His Divine Grace, but unfortunately, they misunderstood some of Prabhupada's instructions. They think they knew better. They think they understood better. They thought, Prabhupada says in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, familiarity breeds contempt. One should not think that just because he had the opportunity to be physically close to the spiritual master, that this guarantees a higher understanding. No, it does not. We were explaining in one of these previous discussions how so many of Prabhupada's personal servants ended up leaving the mission, abandoning their service and leaving the mission. And Prabhupada was once asked, well, why is it that so many of your personal servants end up blooping or leaving? Why? Devotees asked Prabhupada, they had your personal association. And Prabhupada's reply, well, in the beginning, they did very nicely. They had some respect for the spiritual master. But eventually they started to think that the spiritual master is an ordinary man like them. And then they fell down. Punar Musiko Baba. Again become a mouse. So one has to be very careful. Very, very careful. Not to think himself more intelligent than the spiritual master, more clever than the spiritual master, claim that he has a better understanding than the other disciples just because he was there or physically with Prabhupada at some point. Yeah, Prabhupada says a lot of things. But if there is personal motivation, then there will be political chaos, political nonsense. We've seen this. This has been directly seen. So many persons who had direct physical, personal association with Prabhupada ended up to be some of the biggest deviants, biggest nonsense, in some instances, some of the biggest debauchees. So this is just mere physical proximity to the Acharya does not guarantee spiritual success. One has to remain modest, one has to remain humble and serve the mission. This is the secret of success. Not to be arrogant and puffed up thinking, oh, I know better because I was with Prabhupada more than you. Oh, that's nice. That's good. We have seen this both in the post-1937 Gaudiya Math mission and in the post-1937 ISKCON mission. So many individuals who had so much personal, physical, direct association with Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur with Prabhupada. But unfortunately, many of these individuals end up being big deviants. But they're still very proud. Oh, yes. If you ask them and you see what they write, they're very proud of their understanding. Very proud. Are they sober enough to apologize for their mistakes, for misleading devotees, for misinterpreting Prabhupada's instructions? That has yet to be seen. If one is a serious Vaishnava, and if he makes a mistake, he can apologize. Vaishnavas will forget. But if one remains arrogant, still thinking that he knows better than everybody else, just because of his physical proximity, then there is big danger. Some of you may be familiar how an old letter from Srila Prabhupada where Prabhupada mentioned, what will happen when I'm not there? Will the GBC spoil everything? That was a very stark warning. For those persons who think that because they were mercifully given the chance to render some service, important service to the Acharya's mission, if they think they know better than everybody else, they should reflect on Prabhupada's statements, along with many other statements. In September of 1976 in Vrindavan, on a morning walk, Prabhupada described, Krishna does not depend upon any GBC or temple presidents. He can spread his mission by himself. So one should not be arrogant thinking, oh, I was with Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. I know better. I understood what he really meant. Oh, I see. So how is it that under your expert guidance, there were so many deviations? So much craziness? So much madness. So one has to learn from these historical incidents. One has to use his God-given intelligence to clearly understand the teachings without personal motivation. Thank you. To whom it may concern. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana, for that inspiring explanation of things as they've become. And I wanted to quickly go over a few items on your request, actually, which will help us all to further understand the relationship between guru and bona fide guru and a bona fide disciple. And it's interesting to note that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the graduate study of our philosophy, and Caitanya-caritāmṛta is the postgraduate study of our Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And we can see by these verses today how elevated they are, where we're dealing with Radha and Krishna appearing in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is so esoteric. It's almost, for a fallen soul like myself, it's just remarkable that there is this window into the transcendental world that's being provided to us through one source. That's the bona fide spiritual master. This understanding is possible through the association of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada and the seriously inquisitive student. So there's two sides to the coin. You have to have a bona fide spiritual master. You have to be serious about serving him and studying the information that he's given for each one of us, because it's a personal relationship. So the books are written personally for each individual person. Of course, they're written for everyone, but for all people individually. I want to read a important purport in Madhya Lila, Volume 9, Chapter 24, to shed some light on the secrets of the proper relationship between the bona fide spiritual master and the bona fide disciple. This is a purport for us to carefully study according to Prabhupada's instructions. Prabhupada wanted us to carefully read his books on our own as students of this process of bhakti yoga. And just before we jump to that, it was interesting to note, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, that Prabhupada referred to Caitanya-caritāmṛta twice in his diary today, saying that this book is his shelter when he's in the greatest stress of traveling across the ocean for fear of death. But in the meantime, he's completely, so this should be our business, to take shelter of Caitanya-caritāmṛta as we move forward. And we're going to go to this, it is a verse, it's, this particular section is on, Balaram is on the Atmarama verse of chapter 24, Madhya Lila 9, chapter 24, text 330. And the verse is, in your book, there should be the characteristics of the bona fide guru and the bona fide disciple. Then, before accepting a spiritual master, one can be assured of the spiritual master's position. Similarly, the master can be assured of the disciple's position. Very, very intricate, logical discussion here for everyone to contemplate this evening. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, should be described as the worshipable object, and you consider the bija mantra for the worship of Krishna, Ram, or any other expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, it's a long purport, Prabhus. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 pages long. So you can go ahead at your leisure and read the purport. Go ahead and read the whole Caitanya-caritāmṛta, by the way. That's the whole thing to do. But let's go specifically to page 271, to this one section, because I thought I read it to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu 2 days ago, and he said, oh, you should read this at class. So that's why I'm going to go ahead under his request. As far as the mutual testing of the spiritual master and disciple is concerned, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains, Balaram, that a bona fide disciple must be very inquisitive to understand the transcendental subject matter. as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Tasmad Gurun Prapadyate Jignashu Shreya Uttamam, one who is inquisitive to understand the highest goal and benefit of life must approach, once again, a bona fide spiritual master and surrender unto him. A serious disciple must be alert when selecting a bona fide spiritual master. He must be sure that the spiritual master can deliver all the transcendental necessities. The spiritual master must observe how inquisitive the disciple is and how eager he is to understand the transcendental subject matter. The spiritual master should study the disciple's inquisitiveness for no less than 6 months or a year. A spiritual master should not be very anxious to accept a disciple because of his material opulences. Sometimes a big businessman or landlord may approach a spiritual master for initiation. Those who are materially interested are called Vishayis, karmis, which indicates that they are very fond of sense gratification. Such Vishayi is sometimes approach a famous guru and ask to become a disciple just as a matter of fashion. Sometimes Vishayis pose as disciples of a reputed spiritual master just to cover their activities and advertise themselves as advanced in spiritual knowledge. In other words, they want to attain material success. A spiritual master must be very careful in this regard. Such business is going on all over the world. The spiritual master does not accept a materially opulent disciple just to advertise the fact that he has such a big disciple. He knows that by associating with such Vishayi disciples, he may fall down. One who accepts a Vishayi disciple is not a bona fide spiritual master. Does anybody know anyone like that? Even if he is, his position may be damaged due to association with an unscrupulous Vishayi. If a so-called spiritual master accepts a disciple for his personal benefit or for material gain, the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple turns into a material affair, and the spiritual master becomes like a smarta guru. There are many caste Goswamis who professionally create some disciples who do not care for them or their instructions. Such spiritual masters are satisfied to get some material benefits from their disciples. Such a relationship is condemned by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who calls such a spiritual masters and disciples. Now here's the key word, Balaram. A society of cheaters and cheated. They are also called Balas or Prakrita Sahajias. Their aim is to make the connection between the spiritual master and disciple into a very cheap thing. They are not serious in wanting to understand spiritual life. So, Prabhus, you can go ahead. Like I said, it's a six-page purport in Madhya Lila, chapter, volume 9, chapter 24, the Aparama verse. Very, very insightful information on the secrets of Krishna consciousness for everyone's benefit, given by Srila Prabhupada. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, if you could further comment briefly.
Well, these are very important points, and this basically goes to show the importance of carefully reading and studying Srila Prabhupada books and statements, so one will not be misled. Because many devotees, they see so much propaganda on the internet, on Facebook, on YouTube, in different mediums and everything, and they become confused. But if one carefully reads Srila Prabhupada's books and understands Srila Prabhupada's instruction, there will be no confusion. And it doesn't matter who presents what, they will understand what the facts are. So, I mean, there are so many different issues. If one goes through the books, one will see so many instructions. So many instructions. So one has to carefully use his God-given intelligence to understand those instructions and apply this in his life. And then, just like we have our friend in Texas, Dharma Bhavana Prabhu, he's engaged in wonderful programs there with various members of the Indian community, preaching, distributing books, arranging for kirtan with him and his good wife. He's doing a lot of very practical preaching. There's another devotee we know in Hawaii. He has a business selling clothes, and he distributes Bhagavad Gita, distributes books, constantly preaching. And a lot of times he puts these classes we're having, he puts that right on his table so people can watch it. So there's a lot of very practical examples of devotees engage in practical service. Now, I mean, I'm sure there are many people on this call who are doing very practical service to give the message of Srila Prabhupada, present it according to time, place, and circumstances to help people appreciate His Divine Grace's teachings. Hare Krishna.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said earlier, we are looking for people who want to be part of the branches of the Prabhupada Disciple Hare Krishna Society globally. We've earmarked 12 locations globally, and we will discuss it further. But let's go to Dallas, Texas, and ask Dharma Bhavana to please share some of his realizations on today's reading and discussion.
Hare Krishna, thank you. I was thinking about some of the points in today's class. It was very powerful. It's kind of nice when Yaśodā-nandana becomes a little bit angry and he speaks so truthfully and powerfully. It's pretty exciting. And then you're talking about today how devotional service is very practical. I remember 1972, 74, 75, Prabhupada would give different instructions for the initiation process. He would be in India, devotees were being associated in Africa, North America. He'd be in Australia, and devotees were having initiation ceremonies in Canada and Hawaii. And I don't think any devotee ever asked Prabhupada, is this bona fide? I don't think any devotee ever asked that. Prabhupada just said, do it this way, and the devotees followed the instructions.
Yeah. And
it was very practical. I don't even know of even one example of somebody said, my initiation wasn't bona fide because Prabhupada wasn't present. I never heard such a thing.
Never.
And one time, Prabhupada did give an example of why he wanted other devotees to chant on the initiation beads. He was in one place, initiation was taking place in some other country or continent. And at one point he said, it's too much money being spent. We can just do it without, he gave a practical demonstration of why he wanted it done a certain way. But that was rather an exception. That's the only time that I know of, I ever heard of, where he gave an explanation of why he wanted the local temple president or sannyasi to chant on the beads. It was just an extra big expense shipping beads back and forth. So that's just kind of a little bit what we're talking about in class today, how devotional service is very practical. Another point, we're talking about Vani. Just when I read Caitanya-caritāmṛta and read in other places, it seems that really a lot of the problems that devotees have even now came from contemporary devotees of Prabhupada who considered the Acharya to be a stereotype. They thought if somebody's in 1960 or 70, or they have to do exactly like the previous Acharyas have done many, many decades ago. And this idea of a stereotype seems to be a real problematic thing, that where Prabhupada explained that Acharya is not a stereotype. He's simply working with time, place, and circumstances in Krishna's direction, how to carry out the preaching mission. So I thought all the different topics today were very powerfully presented and wonderful. So that's all I have. Hare Krishna.
Very well spoken. And, the fact of the matter is, everyone, that we're here for self-realization. We're not here for being part of a organization necessarily. I mean, organization comes into being when it's trying to become more effective in its mission. But in the particular case of ISKCON, it's become distorted because of the guru system that they've concocted. And this is the root cause of all of the trouble. Totally. And these people, as Yaśodā-nandana mentioned, they take up the role of pretending to be some kind of avaduta. It's some of us know the reality because we know who we are and we know who they are. And our goal is to simply focus on Prabhupada's books and study, just like we read that purport, and get the insight. There's so much insight there. For example, nowadays, just briefly, Dharma Bhavana, why is ISKCON becoming Hinduized? The Hinduization of ISKCON is being done for money, because the East Indian people are so pious, they'll give their money. Just like the Christians give money, they give money. And these people in these roles of the pink robes and their so-called guru position, sitting on Vyasasans. So many examples we see of them taking a position either at the same level as Prabhupada. Are these people we know are not pure devotees by practical experience. And there they sit, or in bigger seats, right in front of Prabhupada. They sit there in bigger seats like monkeys jumping over. The Acharya, which we read, is not the right way. And it creates the society of cheaters and cheated. That's what's said here today. Like I said, don't shoot the messenger. Some people want to attack us because we're talking like this. I just read the purport. I'm just repeating it. So we're going to move forward with our friend in Australia, Balaramji. Maybe you could share some more insight into these matters this evening, or this morning as you are in Australia.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my obeisances amongst the assembled Vaishnavas. Midday here.
Hey,
Gayatri,
midday, eh?
Gayatri time. Sri Gayatri Ki Jai.
You're tremendous. You're a terrific devotee.
So actually, it was interesting, the quote from Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, where a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, please give me your mercy. I mean, we have to understand that Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we don't have to ask for it. It's there. It's there for everyone. I think the example was given, the mercy of the Acharya, the Sampradaya Acharya, not the false Acharya, is there for everyone, just as the rain falls. It can fall on fertile ground or infertile ground. So that mercy is there, and we have to actually, we have to recognize the mercy of the spiritual master. This is the only way that we can get out of this material existence. I was listening to a class a couple of days ago, and Srila Prabhupada said, this material world is a world of fighting. He actually made the statement. He said, this material world is a world of fighting. And I was thinking, kashati, hard struggle for existence. And sometimes, sometimes people say, well, you're all so much on the negative, misery and this and that. The material world's full of misery. Where's the upliftment? Maybe, you'll see so many times, the so-called participants in yoga systems, they're all wanting upliftment. But nate vidu swagatim hi Vishnum, they do not understand that Lord Vishnu is actually the goal of life. That very important verse in the Vedas. Nate vidu swagatim hi Vishnum. They don't understand that Vishnu is the actual goal of life. So caught up with the material senses, and the only way we can understand this is by the process of hearing from the bona fide spiritual master. There's no other way. This process is the avaroha process, descending process. Prabhupada actually explains that the word avaroha comes from avatar, the descending, what's coming down. And that's the only way with our imperfect senses that we can actually understand. I think you were just quoting in some of the readings, we with the limited senses, we can't understand the transcendence. It's impossible. We're slaves to our material senses. So all of the higher information, the wonderful slokas that we're reading, we're only, I think you said there's a window that Srila Prabhupada and the Acharya opens for us. Opens that window. And I mean, it's not us that are saying that the material world is not a very nice place or a difficult place. Mama vanso jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, manasastan indriyani, prakriti swanikashati. Krishna himself explains that the living entities in the material world are my conditioned parts and parcels. They are struggling very hard with the six senses, manasastan indriyani, which includes the mind. So we have to understand this is the process of getting out of. And what does Arjuna say? He says, my dear Krishna, chanchalam hi mana Krishna, the mind is so fickle, and it's ready to take us anywhere. So by following the process of sadhana bhakti, that's where it begins. Regulation in devotional service. We've been hearing, we can't jump to the higher platforms. We have to make ourselves strong by controlling the senses, and the mind is actually considered to be the instrument which actually drives us in the material world. Is connected to the senses. The senses are that wonderful example that Prabhupada gives. The senses, the five senses are the horses of the chariot, the mind are the driving instruments, and the intelligence is the driver of the chariot. So what is happening with the materialist? They're led by the senses, the mind is out of control and overriding the intelligence. And the poor spirit soul is the passenger taken for the ride. So we have to understand this process of spiritual philosophy. Bhagavad Gita is there for us to study. Krishna says that at the end of Bhagavad Gita, study it with your intelligence and come to the right conclusion. So by the association of devotees that we're having here now, very wonderful, and we're all learning day by day. So please, everyone, follow this process, follow the process of sadhana bhakti, become, I think the word that Yaśodā used in a Bhagavad Gita class I was listening to on the weekend, he quoted, Prabhupada said, rapt attention. We have to study the books with rapt attention. There's so much there. Every time we read a shloka, there's more in it for us every single time. So we have to become enthused, utsahan. We have to become enthused to become strong in the process of devotional service. And that's done in the association of devotees. So thank you very much for this wonderful association. Hare Krishna, glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Glories to Prabhupada, and you're exactly right. We have to study. And then what you do after you study is you take action. That's what people do. For example, if you go to the School of Medicine here in Hamilton, they have a very famous school, McMaster School of Medicine. Now, what you do is you study and then you go practice. So we find that if you practice what you preach, then you'll become potent. So that means making devotees. Like I said in this particular discussion this evening, that we're looking to open up branches of our organization. Now, the term branch doesn't mean you need a temple or you need a lot of money. You just need the desire to lead in your particular Prabhupada Desha, and then proliferate the message through these different tentacles. Is that the right word, Yaśodā? It's right. Arms. That this spreads, this message spreads to every town and village through the use partially of the internet. And this is a good use of the internet. So spread this message, everyone, if you feel motivated. And we have a large agenda of items that we're doing, Vinkapata. He showed it last week. We won't show it today because we're moving to the end. But we have a large agenda of work that we're doing, Bhakti Yoga. And we're looking for people, so many good people. Vinayak in Japan, very bright lad, very smart, very ambitious to spread Krishna consciousness. And we're excited with people like that. He was referring to Vinkat Bhatta. If he could just become like Vinkat Bhatta the other day on the phone, I go, good. If we have hundreds of people like all of you, then this thing will explode like a rocket ship. And the truth will go out into the public domain and people will change. And there might be some hope for the modern world. Let's go to Ramachandra or Bhaktaram. I'm not sure what his name is, but it's one of those names. Ron Singh, Ram, in Sacramento. Maybe you could share some thoughts, because I see that you've been a target of one of these senior devotees from the past who's criticizing you for your comments to him. Bhaktaran Singh.
Yeah, so I've been criticized my whole life, so it's not a big thing for me. Just a transitory experience. Anyway, I'd like to refer to my question here. One devotee asked me, my question was, let's see here. I have a question. Banka Bihari Temple, is that an important temple? Is this temple mentioned in any of Srila Prabhupada's books as an authorized temple? By authorized, I mean, is it given great significant importance in the line which we are accepting?
Okay, it's a little off topic here, let's be honest. But at the same time, yeah, of course it's an important temple. Like, what do you think? Everybody's heard of that. But what's your point of view in terms of what's going on currently, in terms of this bona fide disciple, bona fide guru system?
Oh, well, there's, the Acharya is the only guru, and that's it for ISKCON. Prabhupada never instituted any guru process. He said that he remains the guru for ISKCON, so there's no question regarding introducing different systems of guruship and demoting them and promoting them and removing them. And in many so-called gurus have disappeared over the past 40 plus years. So it's just a big nasty fiasco, this guru. So
yes, it's true. And the fact of the matter is, you're also been victimized by it over the years. I know that. And it's a sad comment. There are so many people I'm dealing with nowadays, and they are disturbed, seriously disturbed by what's happened. It's not a small thing. There's some serious karma coming down, very serious karma coming down when you misuse your position for personal gain. It's not right. We're preaching, we're not asking for anything. We're only trying to present this philosophy so we can all feel some ecstasy and mercy from it. Rupa Manjari in California, are you still on the line with us, Mataji? Maybe you could share a few comments with our group today. Rupa Manjari Dasi. Is she still on the line, Vinkat Bhatta? Prabhu? Do you see her on the list?
Yeah, I do.
Is your mic working, Mataji?
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Oh,
We
yes.
can, loud and clear. Keep going.
Well, I just appreciate the class that has been given. And I appreciate all the devotees coming together in Prabhupada's name.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yaśodā, one last comment for us before we move to the kirtan.
Yeah, I just want to comment on that question of Bhaktivedanta regarding the Banka Bihari temple.
Yes.
It is a Vaishnava temple. It's a Krishna temple. It's not a Gaudiya Vaishnava temple. It's a temple. The deity was found in Vrindavan by one Swami Haridas, who was a Vaishnav affiliated with the Nimbarkas a couple hundred years ago. And in 1860 something, they built that big temple there. It's a very popular temple, a very beautiful deity, but it's not a Gaudiya Vaishnava temple. With regards to the discussion that Bhaktivedanta was making comments about one of the original 11, today somebody sent me a link to those discussions, and I noticed not only Vishwakarma Prabhu made comments, but there was a lot of comments from many persons, most of which were very critical of the position of this devotee and former original 11. And I guess the problem we all face, and I'm sure we've experienced this, is the lack of candor and honesty in these kind of discussions. There's still what I call the old guard, still trying to propagate the idea that some way or other, Prabhupada still appointed them as gurus, and they claimed they were there with Prabhupada in a conversation on May 28. What these people don't tell is the next day in Vrindavan, and I noticed because I was Guru Kripa's assistant, I had all of his papers. The GBC designated Sasvarup to send a letter to all the temples. In that letter to all the temples, they mentioned they had a discussion with Prabhupada, and they purposely omitted any reference to initiations. Why did they omit that? Why did they forget that? There was an article put on the old VNN network by one devotee from New York named Lochanananda, who actually compiled a whole description of that incident, how the GBC was not honest with the devotees of ISKCON because they misrepresented that conversation. That particular conversation, which they claim is their so-called appointment on May 28, was never brought up. The audio tape, the discussion to all the devotees at Mayapur in March of 1978. How do I know that? I was living with Tamal, Bhagavan, and Guru Kripa. I know what was being discussed. They didn't bring anything. There was no meeting with the temple presidents. There was no meeting with the sannyasis, the senior devotees. They ran to the river across the street to consult with the Navadvipa advisor, and poof, the white smoke came off of on the day of Lord Chaitanya's birthday. They issued their paper about the process for conducting initiations in consultation with the higher authorities. Well, 46 years later, none of them have ever been able to explain who are these higher authorities. Were they referring to themselves? They used the word plural. Well, they consulted an individual across the river. That would have been singular. Who are these higher authorities? Can anybody identify any statement from Srila Prabhupada where he ever told us to go consult other authorities than himself? How to conduct the affairs of his movement? These are the kind of troubling questions that we don't get any clear answers from that crowd. And I'm sure in the future there will be a lot more discussion. And actually, I'm very grateful for Bhaktaram and others who have engaged in the discussions on Facebook. Not necessarily that it's a criticism of that devotee. A lot of devotees are bringing up this point. It's like recycling an old myth. This myth that Prabhupada some way or other mysteriously appointed 11 successors and 11 Diksha gurus. Some of them are still propagating this nonsense. It's amazing, after 46 years, they're still, and some of them are criticizing, oh, why are you people still discussing this issue after 46 years? Because you're still propagating the sense nonsense fabrication, the sense nonsense misinterpretation. It's not complicated. All you have to do is apologize for the mistake and stop lying to the devotees that you were appointed as a Diksha Guru. That's all. It's not complicated. You've made a mistake, a big mistake, with many consequences. So now it's time to give up that myth and get back to reality. And we're very grateful to devotees like Bhakta Ram Singh for actually pressing the issue. Very good.
What's that? Someone's race. Can you mute that person, Venkat? Okay, hold on. So
Yeah,
yes,
I'm muted.
thank you very much. You know, the one thing is that it's an unfortunate situation, and it's misleading people. As we read today, the Society of the Cheaters and the Cheated. We'll take one more question before we end this session. I see somebody from Georgia. Angelo, are you still there? You had your hand up.
I think you just answered my question. I've been getting this back to Prabhupada for about 6 years.
Oh,
and
yeah.
pretty much, I was just afraid that it might be something I shouldn't read and just stick with Prabhupada's books. But from what I gather, after reading the final solution, they're saying exactly what you did. And there's an article, Cheating Ignorant Disciples, in this issue. And never trust the bluffers. Who stopped the Parampara? GBC, our guru system, is still unauthorized. So
Very good points.
This is okay to read.
Yes,
read
you
it.
can read.
Yeah, it's
a lot of good points there.
Okay,
It gives
good.
good
That's all I
points.
want to know. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Well, what we're doing, Prabhu, just so you know, is we conduct these classes every week, and we're being proactive to continue the ecstasy of Shravanam Kirtan in association with other devotees. So we're also pushing forward with a new era, and we're looking for branches to join us and to be a part of this wonderful process. But thank you very much for coming. And, you know, we'll be here back on Saturday morning, night at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the Bhagavad Gita reading. So we divide it into three. We have Caitanya-caritāmṛta on Wednesday evening, and then Saturday morning Bhagavad Gita. And we started right at the beginning, and we're carrying on. And then also Śrīmad Bhagavatam. We're in the first volume of Śrīmad Bhagavatam, and we got a long way to go in this journey back home, back to Godhead. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I've been watching you on YouTube. I just now started getting your emails.
Oh, okay. Terrific. And thank you very much. We really appreciate it. So we're going to conclude the class and move forward with the chanting of Hare Krishna. Everybody chant along with Srila Prabhupada and all of us together and enjoy Sankirtan for 5 or 6 minutes. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday morning. Glories to Prabhupada.
Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsadi Gaurabhakta Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsadi Gaurabhakta Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsadi Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled devotees. Vanchakalpa, Tarubhyascha,
Kripascha, Kripa-sindhu, Bevacha,
Vivacha,
Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo.
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure. For my friend here in Hamilton, Joe Felice, who attends all the meetings, he says it's the highlight of his week to spend 4.5 hours online with the Prabhupada Disciples Association, Hare Krishna Society. And that's how I feel, and I know that's how all of you feel. And let's march forward on our journey back home, back to Godhead. Glories to Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.